And we now welcome Steve Symons, who will be talking about multiplayer instruments as shared apparatus.
The two players, so they're facing each other, and then we take data from that and use that to control the sound system. So, for example, my piece, the Stickertron, the two people share a physical interface, so they're absolutely physically connected, and as they move the stick around together in space, data from that stick is taken out and used to control the musical system. And in particular, I take the location in 3D space, this pitch, and how far they move it around like this. I then thought, what happens if I remove the stick? And I said, okay, let's remove the stick and replace it with a virtual elastic band. So, although the connection, the same maths are being used in terms of the system, I get rid of it. And my first year was spent, I spent quite a few while doing studies comparing these two things. And what's come out of that is the stick, yes, it links people, it causes a constraint, and it causes a route by which an awful lot of communication can happen. We could look at that in two ways. We could call it connection, but also we could think of the stick as excluding other options. We could think of a cut that cuts out other things. Individuals, I've noticed, would gift each other space. They would hold space, hold a position, and let the other person play for a while. They could also intervene on each other, which is the same power structures as I was trying to get away, if you think of, for someone reaching over and might turn my volume down. So although my physical connections were, the systems were revealing quite some interesting things, it wasn't quite, it was putting people in juxtaposition to each other, so they're acting on each other rather than with each other, which is something that I particularly wanted to get away from. And the reason for this, I realized, is designed from a gestural perspective. Well, I mean that, I started very much from the tangible, embodied, interactive point, position, which often comes from what we call an active sense, where our cognition of the world is based on moving and then looking to see how that affects our motor sensory feedback. And there's a really interesting set of writing by Di Paolo and Diego Gufari, where they take that basic inactive process and turn it onto two people facing each other and explore, can we use that as a basis for social cognition? So rather than you acting in the world and seeing your existence there and adjusting your coupling to the world, you start acting on each other's coupling. And I realized that my attitude of where I've come from was really deeply embedded in the interfaces I was making. So this is where I started bringing in the other set of theories, which is from the humanists. I've been also looking at post-human, which doesn't mean getting rid of humans, it means more than, beyond. What else? And this shifts our attitude, shifts our focus from thinking about what individuals are doing and how they're acting on each other to think of them in terms of being part of a set of forces. And this is where a piece which I have brought to demonstrate, I'll be here, called the perceptron. Instead of making a representation between players, a stick or an elastic band, I take the raw data and then use a machine learning process to entangle them. or to interpret how to control the synthesizer. Now, the advantage of this is that the relationships between, or the mapping between movement and the synthesis doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from any decision to map a particular movement to a filter, say, but it puts the interpretation of that and the understanding of that very firmly on the players as they explore the world. So this is a big shift, I think, is me stepping back as a designer from trying to control and manipulate everything to finding other systems that decenter me, take me away from the core, and put the interpretation on the actor playing. And the effect for this has been to create a space where agency flows very easily between the players and they're not seeking to impose so much upon each other. And that should leave me 2 minutes and 10 seconds for questions.
Thank you very much, Steve. Great food of thought. We can ask Chris to start setting up while we have time for 2 quick questions or 1 longer one. Questions?
There's an awful lot there for like far too much. Sorry.
Thanks, Simon. I was on your workshop yesterday, and I was thinking about it kind of overnight. While you're ceding control of some aspects of what happens to the players, there's still a kind of initial sound system or space that you kind of create the potential of, and then how does that work? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I can't take myself out. I did a workshop yesterday where we spent the afternoon playing lots of different variations. Can you hear me? Or is that feeding back? Oh. Yeah, so the outcome of that is that I can't, if I step away completely, nothing exists. So there has to be a decision of where I go, boom, boom, this is something. And I make decisions about the sound system, what it's going to sound like. And there's a whole host of things that I bring to that, obviously, which I need to be aware of. So I can't, when I say I decenter myself, I'm not removing myself. I'm becoming more aware of myself as the designer and going, I am overly controlling the system, maybe. So it's, yeah, I'm creating a garden. I'm putting my arms around people. They have to do within my garden. Yeah.
Hi, really nice presentation. I was just wondering, what is, in your perspective, what are the benefits of an entangled design approach to musical instrument? Like,
yeah, I can only talk for myself. Yeah. And by taking on, so I've had so my thesis is going to be approached from the 2 perspectives of the social cognition and the entangled, and layering them on top of each other, okay? When I started bringing the entangled angle, layer, it enabled me to make a 3rd piece of work, which I don't believe I could have done had I not layered it on, if that makes sense. And from the studies, I'm getting, say, about 3 different kinds of behavior observations coming out. So, for example, this kind of play fighting, a kind of a synchronized contingent behavior, and a 3rd one, which is a kind of glazed over, like general awareness kind of thing. All 3 studies are showing different balances. But the entangled one is the one which suggests that it's got the most of this like very fluid, spaced out kind of behavior. So in answer to you, it's two things. One, it's encouraged me to find a new way of making a system which I wouldn't have done before. I think that's an advantage. But within that, it's also seems to be promoting a new kind of behavior that I haven't seen elsewhere between the players. Is that? For me, that personally, I think that's a win. It's closer to what I want to have as an artist, as I want to be able to create situations where people have a equal shared dynamic. So, yeah, I feel I'm quite happy with that. Tick it off. Yeah, sorry, I feel like there's this like, I do apologize. Yeah. I think there is one coming up in a year, isn't there? Yeah, and it's really frustrating. I'm bored with Entangled now. Like, go on there. I'm not. The what?
You know, I'm thinking about some bands have been performing with that kind of entangled notion for quite a long time, right? Without an entangled instrument, you know, extreme improvisation like no-necks blues and stuff like that. That's kind of what they do, right? Don't they? They don't start off with any preconceived, score or what they're going to do. They're kind of momentary.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry to be a buzzkill, but that sounds like a pub discussion.
Yes, so exactly. Thank you so much again, Steve. Yeah, big round of applause.